So these are the sessions on nutrition. And these first 2 sessions this morning are going to be on NEWSTART. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest and trust in God. Any questions? Pardon? There will be.
Just keep talking.
I was just saying to one of you here that these particular talks, the most feedback that I'm getting from these talks is on, because I've done these. There's two sorts: the physical, the healing, health work, but also the emotional. And the most feedback, that doesn't matter where I'm going, it's always the same from the emotional. People are saying, "How come I've never heard this before? I've been a Christian for 56 years and I've never heard it." I say, well, but I believe God is allowing it to come out now because he knows we need to know it. I see it. Yes?
I think you should start because I'm not getting any response to this.
Okay, we'll start then. So you'll just tune in when you get going, or what? Are you going to record it or what?
Yeah, we're recording it anyway.
Okay.
So just hang on a sec. Now you can start.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next talk, it's going to be in 2 parts. This is part 1. I'm just going to go through the first 4 laws of health. Okay, what are the laws of health? Look, we can remember them by using the acronym NEWSTART, spelling out the word NEWSTART. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest and trust in God. Basically, I believe these are what bring us health and healing. But predominantly, we're also going to share with you, and we're talking about a whole food plant-based diet, which I believe is God's designer diet, that he was given to mankind right back in the Garden of Eden. And do you know what people are eating today? Is this sort of food. Because, this is typical, isn't it? And if you're honest, you'd say most of it you've eaten yourself, or it tastes good or whatever. But this is what we are fed in society today. But we have to use correct food for our bodies. If we don't, what's it going to do to us? Because there's a certain balance in our body. There is an acid and alkaline balance in our body. And if you don't get the right acid-alkaline balance, you're going to become very acidic in your body. And that acid in your body is going to break your body, your health down. Meat, fish, dairy, sugars, refined foods, some grains are very acidic. Calcium, magnesium, potassium and sodium are drawn from the bones to neutralize the acidity, which has a burning effect. But stress also causes acid. Now, some of the symptoms of acid are, look at them: fatigue, excess mucus, anxiety, nervousness, irritability, ovarian cysts and benign breast lumps, headaches, your body retains water, cardiovascular damage, bladder and kidney conditions, osteoporosis, bone spurs, joint pain, aching, muscles and lactic acid buildup, gout, weight gain, obesity. So you can see all these things creates cholesterol. This is what we are facing, and people are getting sick. Their bodies are too acid. And there's also one other component, which is a the fungal yeast connection. If a person has a yeast and fungus imbalance and eats sweet food, this releases a microtoxin that is many times more acidic than the food eaten. So slightly acidic food becomes extremely acidic after the yeast fungus feeds on it, creating an acid state in the body. And you will find there's a lot of women, and believe me, I know this, I'm talking to people who will actually identify with this, who have got a yeast and fungal overgrowth, and the moment they eat sugars, they immediately can identify with it because they know they can sense their fungal overgrowth. And men, it doesn't happen as readily, but I believe it also happens with them as well, but women sense it more because of the aspect of the way we're designed, okay? But yeasts have the fungal yeast connection is very much attributed to this. So you have to understand that if you eat foods that have got a high sugar, so you might be on a good diet, but you're eating too much fruit, and it can just tip it over, and you think, why am I so tired? Why am I so fatigued? Isn't this diet what's supposed to bring health? And it's true, this diet will bring health, but what's happened, we've got our bodies out of balance and we haven't got that balance right. All of a sudden, we're behind square one to start off with. Now, what do our bodies need in requirements? Our bodies need carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. Now, we're just going to talk very briefly about some of these at the moment. Okay, we're going to talk about protein. Okay, we need protein in our body. What sort of the protein do we have? We need it because why do we need protein? Well, it's needed for growth and maintenance, okay? So, but we need it. And you know that I can remember one lady came to me and she says, oh, can you talk to my daughter? And she says, my daughter is decided, she was only a teenager, and she decided she would just stop eating. Their family had a diet on meat, and the daughter says, I'm going to become a vegetarian. And so she just stopped eating meat. And I said to the mother, I said, she'll get herself very sick. If you just stop eating meat in your diet, you must know what to replace your protein with. You must give yourself good protein replacement. So what do I eat in protein? Well, I eat legumes, beans, nuts, dried peas and tofu. Nuts and seeds are like sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. So I'm making sure I'm aware and I'm getting lots of protein in my diet, because I cannot just decide if I want to get whole food plant-based diet. What does that mean? No animal products whatsoever. Okay, and whole food plant-based also means that you can be a vegan and you can still eat donuts. You can be a donuts and you can be a vegan. So we're talking about, it's a little bit clearer if you say whole food plant-based. Why? Whole food plant-based means that whole foods you're using. You're not just using the processed stuff that you can buy. Most important, we understand that. So I'm getting plenty of protein, and I'm concentrating on my protein in my legumes, beans, lentils, dried peas and tofu, and nuts and seeds. But animal protein is shown to cause cancer, and I'll share you this, and I'm not going to spend time in it right now because there's a whole section on this that I'm going to talk about called the China study. Okay? And the China study talks about chemicals and viruses and toxins. Plant the cancer seed, animal protein causes it to grow and get out of control. And that is a whole subject. It's too vast to touch on here. It will not give us justice even if I just touch on this first few small points of it. But remember, this is really an interesting subject, and it's talking about the advantage of a vegetarian diet. Written by, The China Study is a book written by Dr. Colin Campbell, who is a cancer researcher, and he found out what causes cancer, and he's written it up in the book, The China Study. But I'll leave all that information for another talk. Okay, now carbohydrates. What sort of carbohydrates are we going to eat? We have to know refined carbohydrates. Now, what's the most common carbohydrate that most people would eat today? Cake. Bread. About carbohydrates, yes, okay. But avoid all sugars, biscuits, ice cream, cakes, potatoes, potato crisps, desserts. Do you know something? I can actually remember, because I'm old enough to remember when our family bought our first can of peaches, fruit. I can remember that. I can still remember bringing it home, and my dad tasted it and he says, "Oh, they taste tinny." And I can still remember the only other canned food we have in our house was camp pie. Do you remember camp pie? Wow, that was a shocking taste of meat. It was horrible. We hated it, right? But this is it. But then there was no such thing as canned food when I was growing, when I was little. Because I'm that old. And that's right, isn't it, Jessie? Okay. So what I'm saying is that I can remember back when we didn't even have crinkly packets. There was no such thing as potato crisps. There was no such thing as... I can remember we had a small block of chocolate. That was our family treat. It was a small block of chocolate, and we broke it into... There was 4 kids and 2 parents, and it broke into 10 pieces. 2 of us got an extra piece, Okay, a couple of us had an extra piece. But what I'm saying is that was divided amongst the whole family. So our special treat was one little square of chocolate. Now you eat a whole big block by yourself. Can you see the difference? Okay? Desserts. And believe me, and how many biscuits, ice cream, cakes, chocolates. And I would know there'd be a number of you here have in your cupboard at home some chocolate. I know there's been a number of you who have in your cupboards at home potato crisps and desserts. And believe me, I know where you're coming from. I know they taste nice. And I know that they are addictive to your taste buds. But I know that for me personally, I can't have any of them in my house because I would eat them. So I just leave them. I don't have them at home. I just leave them. And I think, no, I don't want to have them at all. So I don't have any. And I used to be addicted to chocolate, but I just do not have it in the house. And now I can turn past. Doesn't worry me. People, you go places and there's chocolate everywhere. I couldn't care less. I haven't had it for so many years. I'm not at all interested in it. Potato crisps, on the other hand, has been a more relative getting rid of. I've had a weakness for that crinkly potato crisp, that salty taste. But I think, no, they've got to go too. All of these things have to go. Why? That's for me anyhow. I know, because I know that they're not good. I want my body to be healthy. I want to build up this body, and I know that if I put in food that's going to break the health down, it's going to cause problems. Desserts, all those things. But there are healthy alternatives to many of these things you can make. And believe me, we know how to make some very nice healthy desserts. We know how to make some very nice healthy things. I haven't perfected the potato crisps yet. I'd like to, but I figured, why perfect them? Because I think maybe later on I've got to give them up too anyhow, so why even bother? So I just figured, look, I know that my diet is getting quite plain. If you understand what by plain, it still tastes nice. But look, I'm just leaving a lot of the stuff. All these complicated stuff that I used to do, you know. Just so much easier to have a one pot and that's it. And, you know, it's so much easier to cook that way. But we really need to have healthy alternatives to our carbohydrates. And so, I mean, we eat potatoes, we eat pumpkin, we eat all those type of things there. But you need to have a healthy one. Healthy foods. Next to fats, we need healthy fats in our diet. Fats that heal have a different molecular structure than fats that kill. Now, heat changes the shape of the molecule from cis to trans form. What does this mean? This means that if you've got, especially your processed oils, your commercial oils that you buy, they are so harmful. They're breaking down your health. I believe the only safe oils to use are your cold-pressed olive oil. I believe also there's a few other cold-pressed oils you may be able to use, maybe avocado oil and those sort of things. Coconut oil is fine because that's processed differently. But all these other oils, your canola oil, your whatever oil, avoid them. They're processed. They're doing some very, very bad things to your health because they're changing the molecules from cis. Cis is like a horseshoe-shaped molecule to a trans, which is a straight molecule. So when you change that molecule shape, the waste product, when your body breaks down these oils, becomes a waste. It deposits in your joints. And that's why you see people who are older, they've got the wastes in their joints. They're like 40 or 50 years old and they're walking around like this. They can hardly walk. Why? Because they've got too many wastes in their body, in their system. They have to break. You have to get rid of them. And one of the worst things is fats. And your hydrogenated fats turns polyunsaturates into trans fats. This is a really, really big subject. Your margarines. Somebody used to say to me, margarine is one molecule short of a plastic. I don't know how true that is. But I tell you what, it is no good for your health to eat table margarine or any margarine. And it's found in so many things. I am absolutely amazed how many bakery products you find margarine in it. Trans fat are solid at room temperature and treated by the same body as saturated fat. And people say to me, what about Nuttelex? Nuttelex is the same. Don't kid yourself. It's hard, it's hard at room temperature. The only, like you take coconut oil, that's a different thing because you put a coconut oil in your mouth, your body temperature coconut oil will melt, but not margarine, okay? Cells, and what happens? Cells become stiff and do not allow the normal function to occur. For example, viruses can invade cells leading to cancer. They accumulate in arteries leading to heart disease. The immune system needs the cells of the right shape to function correctly, and they alter the normal enzyme activity of the tissues. They inhibit cell respiration, they interfere with digestion, poorly absorb nutrients, decrease energy levels. Now let's look at this next one. Women who eat 4 or more teaspoons of margarine a day have 66% greater risk of heart disease than women who have it less than a month. Now, I don't know. That's research that they brought it out. How easy is it to eat 4 or more teaspoons of margarine? Well, you say, I don't eat 4 teaspoons. Well, maybe you don't. But I tell you, it can be hidden in so many things too, especially your biscuits, your cakes, your desserts can be hidden there. Just be very carefully. I avoid margarine like the plague. I mean, if you invited me to your home and you had a sandwich and you gave me a piece of bread and you put margarine on it, I'd say, well, I'd probably, I'd eat it. Okay, I wouldn't be rude to you, but I do not ever eat this at my home if I've got a choice. Never. I wouldn't put margarine into my body if I have a choice. I would sooner eat just the bread by itself. I don't put anything on it. And if we are ahead, and I shared this with a group of people who wanted to do these health programs in their church, and I said to them, if you want to do health programs in your church, do not serve the public margarine. Okay, because the women in the public know how harmful margarine is to you. If you're going into your church and you're serving, you maybe even soup and buns, and you've got margarine on your bread, I said, what is it showing to them? We've got something better we can offer these people. We have got so many beautiful spreads. I tell you what, I keep saying to people, who made the rule that says you've got to put margarine or butter on your bread? Who said you have to? Spreads are so much nicer. You put some hummus or use some pumpkin seed dip or whatever. You put all these other spreads on your bread. They're so much nicer. Okay, we can use them. So don't serve these. If you're doing this work in your churches where you are, don't serve the public margarine. Okay, show them there is something better than you can serve them. Eating raw nuts 1 to 4 times a week reduces a heart attack by 25%. Eating nuts 5 times a week reduces it by 50%. And eating more omega-3, linseed, chia, and pepitas and purslane. Okay, so we have a regular, not huge, but just a regular, small amount of nuts. Don't get into the habit of eating a huge amount. Just have a small amount.
Just a bit moreish.
You like them, there's a bit moreish. Okay. Yeah, but we shouldn't be eating too much. Just a handful of nuts. That's as much as you should be eating a day. And look, I know somebody who could sat down and they could eat a whole big packet of cashews. And
Barbara said you put it in your den and you lock the joint, lock them in the cupboard and return the key and lock them away. That's a good thing.
yes, it's true, because you can't eat too many of these things. It's because they're a very rich source of protein. They're giving a lot in your body. Okay, but eat more omega-3s. Where do you find your omega-3s? Linseeds, chia seeds. You get them in. I actually have them fresh all the time. We're going to talk about this one other time. But anyhow, maybe I'll cover it now. I can remember years ago being visited by a man he was a doctor. He says, flaxseed, very good for your, very good because of high amounts of omega-3. Don't buy it from the health food shop. It's quite expensive. Goes rancid very quickly. Make it yourself every morning fresh. Have a little bit of fresh ground linseed every morning, just over your breakfast, and you're getting your quality of omega-3s for the day. And I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And you know what? If you haven't, start when you get home. Have a small amount of omega-3s every day because it feeds your brain. You need omega-3s for your brain. So have them every day. And most people have, in the pre-industrial, see there's a balance of omega-3s to omega-6s. And most people are having so many omega-6s, which they can find in a lot of fats, but we're not having enough omega-3s. And most people, they used to have, pre-industrial times, they had a ratio of 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. But now in our westernized diets, we have 1 to maybe 16 or 1 to 20. It's just we're not getting near enough omega-3s. And one of the very richest source of omega-3s in our plant kingdom is purslane, which is a weed in your garden. We're going to talk about that when we get to our weeds section. Okay, we're also going to talk about fibre. Look at the fibre that you can have in the left-hand side of the picture against the fibre in the right-hand side of the picture. Okay, we need lots of good fibre. They give us our prebiotics. Not our probiotics, our prebiotics are in fibre. Okay, then we go into vitamins. What are vitamins? Well, look, vitamins do so many wonderful things. We need trace minerals. I thought I eliminated that particular slide. But we need our vitamins and our minerals. Where do we get our vitamins and minerals from? From our fresh greens, fresh foods. We get them from everywhere, but we've got to look for them. Look for your nourishment. Someone contacted me today and they said to me, what can they do for such and such? And I think this particular problem is get super nutrition in. How do you get super nutrition in? You go in, you look for your vitamins and your minerals. And we're going to talk a special on the herbs section. We can get minerals and we can find them free in our backyards. We don't have to go and buy special minerals. We can find them free.
But what about the vegetables that you buy in the supermarket?
Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, but you may not be here the other day. But the vegetables in the supermarket don't have near as enough. We're talking, you see, if you're growing vegetables, their root system may grow this deep in the ground. And you're getting them if it's in the soil. But if you're going out in the wild, you're getting perennials and annuals of weeds that root system go much deeper. So you're getting a higher sense of nutrition, and the mineral content on them is huge. And so you can even go to trees and leaves of trees that get the root system goes really deep into the ground. So we need to be thinking beyond just vegetables. Think minerals, go out into your wild, looking at the root system that goes really deep in the ground. Thinking beyond just plain vegetables. Because you think of, we'll talk about alfalfa, that goes down huge in the ground too. Okay, but this is our food, our nutrition section here. Eat a variety of fruits and vegetables each day, but not the same meal. A plant-based diet will dramatically reduce all degenerative diseases. Simple vegetable meals centered around beans and legumes, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds are very nutritious and very filling. And also, it's really interesting because when the original diet that God gave Adam and Eve was nuts, fruits, grains, and seeds. But it was interesting that herbs were only given after man sinned. And I liken sin to a toxin in our body. And it's like to get rid of these toxins, immediately God added herbs to mankind because he knew that we'd have toxic bodies. So he's given us something that we can eat them, we can detox with them, you can poultice with them, and you can even infuse them into oils. Herbs are just such a blessing from God. So I didn't really give a full justice to the section on nutrition because there's so much more to it, but I just wanted to touch on, I haven't got time to go into deep, but you need to get your nutrition straight. Okay, exercise. How many deaths can be attributed to a lack of exercise? Exercise enhances memory, concentration, cognition, creativity, and word fluency. A lack of exercise is a major contribution that promotes depression, tension, and anxiety. And says one study stated that a 10-minute brisk walk will yield 1 hour of increased energy and reduced tension, whereas a sugar snack will ultimately result in fatigue and tension. And look, I'm not going to go through all this. You all know how good exercise is for you, what it does for you, how it builds up your circulation. You know, they say perfect circulation equals perfect health. So you need to have good circulation. And it strengthens bones and muscles and ligaments. And the hardest thing to do can be to get into an exercise program if you've become very, very sedentary. Hardest thing to do. Yet for some people it's just like, this is it. We just want to exercise. And that's great. It's good if you can. Morning exercise is best as it increases the metabolism for the rest of the day. And yeah, weight-bearing exercise is good as it uses all muscles. Walk up hills to get the heart rate up. Walk briskly. I can remember walking with my husband. I tell you what, I could not believe the speed he'd walk at, even if he was an old man. He would be walking so fast, and I said, could you please wait down? He says, no. I said, come on, keep up with me. And I just had to learn and adjust. Sometimes I would rebel a bit, but he always walked fast. Everything he did was walking fast. And stretch before and after to avoid strains and increase flexibility. And remember to earth. Now, what is earthing? Okay, touching your feet on the soil or a part of your body, let's say your feet. Now, some people, you can live for, I would say a lot of old people, especially in nursing homes, they've probably been in there and it's how many years since they've touched the ground with their feet? You know, because the shoes, when you wear shoes, rubber sole shoes, stops you from earthing. So you need to go out and you need to get out on the ground. And we used to do this all the time. And when I say this, it just brings it back to my memory because sometimes you can get out of the routine of this. But we used to often at night time go outside just before going to bed at night and walk around with bare feet on the cold, wet, especially in the winter, on the cold, wet grass. And go out there for probably about 2 or 3 minutes and just walk around. Excellent. You come in and your feet are so cold, you just dry them off and you just put some socks on and you get into bed and you have a lovely sleep. Or, yes, it does. It makes you feel fantastic. Makes you feel fantastic. Or, this is earthing, because you see, we get static electricity in our body. And sometimes you can even, you touch something and, you get a little shock. Well, how do we get rid of the static electricity in our body? We have to earth. We have to touch the ground. And because we've got rubber soles on our shoes, rubber soles on our shoes or on our feet that we wear, our feet are not touching the ground, especially in the winter. You tend to earth a little bit more in the summer, but you need to earth. And as I said, people can go around for years and years. They don't touch the ground. I've actually got an earthing mat, which I've got next to my computer. So I'm touching it, so that I'm earthing all the time on an earthing mat. And we'll talk about that. We've got one whole subject on EMFs. So we're going to go into that one of the other talks, and we'll cover the earthing aspect in there. Intermittent exercise, they say that this is the best exercise you can do, and especially if you've got limited time. You warm up for 3 minutes, you go hard and fast as you can for 20 to 30 seconds, you recover for the 60 to 90 seconds, and you repeat that 7 times. And that will give you the same effect of I think it's a half an hour or something if you did proper exercise, and you can get this over and done with so quickly. So if you do in benefits of high intensity interval training 3 times a week, you have fat loss, weight loss, fat loss, a reduction of visceral fat, waste, increased muscle, fitness, power, carbohydrates, fat metabolism. So what we're saying here is get yourself into an exercise program. And it can start out as simply as if you've got a rebounder, which a lot of people have got, and it's usually probably under the bed or somewhere like that. I just remember one lady, all she did is she just did this for 10 minutes a day. And she said that, wow, she started to get a lot more energy. Just simple as that. Just do the basic bounce on the rebounder for 10 minutes a day. But we really need to get exercise. Okay, we will next cover water. Okay, now we need to drink pure water. Some of the ingredients in many drinks can cause frequent urination and subsequent dehydration, and it causes stress and mental confusion. And so many people are dehydrated because when you're dehydrated, our bodies are unable to secrete toxins and salts, and so tend to become bloated. Dehydration increases the risk of kidney stones, cancers, obesity, and many more diseases. And so what we've got to understand is that it's very easy to be dehydrated. Now, I know that in recent years, you see a lot more people carrying their water around with them. People are becoming more aware of it. But I've got this book at home, and I came across this quite a few years ago, called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And it was written by an Iranian doctor, Dr. Batman Gehelij. We'll call him Dr. Batman. I don't remember how to pronounce his name. He was an Iranian doctor, and he was put in prison in Iran when the Ayatollah Khomeini took over in the 1970s. He was a political prisoner. What they did is they put everybody who was educated in prison in Iran. Well, he was in prison, and he was a medical doctor, and there was people coming to him in prison, and they said to him, well, you're a doctor. I've got a stomach pain. What should I do? He didn't have anything. And he said that when he was in prison, what he said to them, I'll go and have a drink of water. I'll go and have 2 cups of water. And this person, it started off with a stomach ulcer. Go and drink two cups of water. And the fella did it, and he knew and he noticed how he was relieved of his stomach ulcer pain. Every single ailment of everyone who came to him when he was in jail, all his fellow prisoners, anyone who was sick, go and have a drink of water. And he realised there was more to this than just has to be. So what happened? He actually appealed. Somehow or other, he got out of prison and he went to America and he did much more research. And this is his research on your body's many cries for water. Dyspeptic pain, heartburn. Who says heartburn is your rheumatoid arthritis? Your body is starving for water. Low back pain. You stop and think, your lower back pain. Now just imagine like you can see your fingers, my fingers are like the vertebrae in your back. In between the vertebrae are cushions like you've got your discs. Now, if your discs are actually a little bit dehydrated, your back, your whole vertebrae is going to compress. And so that can give you back pain. So if your discs, to be really hydrated and plumped up, you need to be drinking lots of water. Headaches, lots of water. Who's telling people? I can remember one doctor told us years and years ago, said that people say go and have a Disprin and drink of water. It's the water that heals them of their headache, not the Disprin. And this woman was a doctor. She told us that. High blood pressure, asthma and allergies. Now, asthma, my mother was a severe asthmatic. She had, for her probably the last 20 or 30 years of her life, she was really severe. And I looked, and this was her, when I think back on my health journey, one of the things I wanted to learn was how can I help my mother's asthma? And that put me on this journey, and I didn't know all about this when she was still alive. But when I think back on her life, and I've talked about it with my sister, she hardly drank any water. I know she hardly drank any water. And you know what? You stop and think, your bronchioles, your lungs, they constrict because when you breathe out, you give a water vapour off. Well, her body, because she didn't have enough water in her body, and anyone who's an asthmatic, you're breathing off a water vapour, your body, to constrain and to stop that loss of water vapour, constricts. your blood vessels and everything in your lungs, so that you're not breathing out as much. Can you see how your body is actually trying to get you to survive, but yet it's giving you asthma? So what you've got to see is that all you've got to do is start teaching people, drink more water. And some people, and I look around and I think, oh, that person, I'm visiting somebody, and I'm visiting them there maybe from morning till afternoon, and during the whole time that I've been there, they haven't had one drink of water. It's not good. I know there is a downside of it, and you've got to know where every toilet is, but that's the downside of it. So you've just got to realise that your body is crying for water. It balances nutrients. It helps digestion to break up and soften and transport food. It controls body temperature. Through perspiration, it lubricates, insulates and protects, gives flexibilities to muscles, ligaments and joints. It minimises dehydration, it saves in kidney workload. It reduces stress on the circulatory system. It heals, it cleanses, it relaxes. It improves circulation, thus improving the immune system. It replenishes blood volume, helps relieve constipation and excretion of waste, aids in building and repair of body tissue. So many things just from normal water. But coffee dehydrates, and your tea and your soft drink and your energy drink. So other than the basic problems with these things, they actually dehydrate you, because to break down coffee and a lot of your drinks, it puts your body under such a stress. You're going to use more. It has to pull things out of your buffer. It has to buffer like minerals that you pulled out of your different parts of your body to get rid of these wastes. And so you need water to do it. See, and most people are so dehydrated, we haven't got enough water in our body to get rid of these toxins. Herb tea's fine. Yeah, herb tea's fine.
Is it considered to rehydrate you?
Yes, that's right. But you still do need you still do need to have water. Yeah, you need to drink water. Look, some people say, put lemon in the water, which is fine, but I just go for water. I love my water. If you come to my place and I think to myself, well, what have I got nice that I can give you? I think I've got a few bottles of juice there, or I've got coconut water, which I do have, but I don't have much water. So it's pretty much, if you come to my house and you want a drink, it's just water. I mean, I can make a herb tea for you, but it's just water. I don't have any flavoured thing. But when I was a kid, to drink water, we used to put, my mother we'd make cordial. To make cordial, you'd get this bottle of essence, cordial essence, and then you'd put probably about 2 pounds of sugar in there, which is like a huge amount. Do you remember making that? All this, like about 6 or 8 cups of sugar, and you dissolve it in hot water, you pour in your essence, and you'd bottle that, and you'd make that. That would be your cordial extract that you'd put in the bottle of, you'd maybe do that much of cordial and then fill it up with water. And this is what we drank.
So what is good water?
Pardon?
What is good water?
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, soft drink and nowadays, I can't imagine that there is such a thing called all these energy drinks. I remember I said to you, we had once a year, when it would be Christmas, my father would buy 12 bottles of soft drink. That would be our family supply. And we thought it was Christmas. We knew it was Christmas when Dad bought his 12 bottles of soft drink. And they were only these small bottles, and they had to go between the 6 of us. And that was for the year, So we had 12 drinks once a year. Yeah, it was different those years. And yet nowadays, I can remember talking to one teenage boy, and he says, at your school, I said to him, what's the most common food that people, their snack that they have at recess, high school age? And he said, a packet of chips and a can of Coke. Is that right? Packet of chips and a can of Coke. That was their meal. Now, this is a generation ago, he told me. It's the same today still. That's their snack for recess. And I think, wow. No wonder our health is breaking down. Okay, the other thing is avoid drinking with your meals as it dilutes digestive juices. Wait at least half an hour before and 1.5 hours after your meal. So when we're eating, we do not drink with our meals. And if you want to have a drink with your meal, and if you want to grab a drink up there, we've got some drinks on the table up there, but we don't normally serve drinks with our meal. Often people who want to drink with their meal, the reason they do that because they haven't drank enough during the time in between our meal. So what we've got to do is get our water intake quite a lot of water in between our meals. And what it says, wait at least a half an hour before and 1.5 hours after your meals. Why? Because it dilutes your digestive juices, okay? And not only that, I find in this weather, it is so much easier if in the morning, especially in the morning, I will get up, I will have my water, and then I will have I boil a kettle and I put a splash of hot water in, maybe that much hot water on the top just to make it's chilled. And I actually like it a little bit warm. I'm quite used to that. It doesn't stress me out. Years ago, I think that, people, if you had drank warm water, you'd maybe, get upset in your stomach. But I'm so used to it, I like it. I quite look forward to it now.
What about a bit of lemon in it?
A little bit of lemon in it's fine. But we need to drink pure water, and I think I've left that slide out. But, we're talking about you said what sort of water? We need pure water. I do not drink town water here. If I didn't have I've got a reverse osmosis purified water that I have that I'm drinking all the time. But if I didn't have that and I only had town water, well, I'd drink that as against nothing. But I think if you have town, there's ways you treat it. Do you know something? You just get a lump of bit of ash. It's not ash. What am I looking at? Coal out of your fireplace, and you just sit it in there. It will absorb and it'll pull things. Remember, charcoal will pull toxins into it. So you just have a few large bits of wood, burnt wood in the bottom of your jug, and it will absorb some of those toxins out of your water into that. So if you didn't have purified water, there's ways around you can do it, but you can use charcoal to do that. And either the charcoal that I'm thinking of now is, the charcoal I have now is very highly powdered and very like talcum powder, but this you need to use chunks of wood out of your fireplace, and that will start getting rid of some of the toxins out of your water. That's if you don't have purified water. But I would do everything I can to have purified water, or get a tank or something, but get away from the town water. So most problems, all the fluoride, all the chlorine in it, I sometimes think, there is this thing about fluoride. Fluoride is put in our waters to dumb us down. No question about that. Because, Adolf Hitler put in fluoride in the water in concentration camps in Germany. And do you think he was worried about their teeth? No, it dumbs people down.
What do you think about distilled water?
Distilled water is okay. I actually don't use it, but I know it can be used. Yeah.
What about water out of a plastic bottle? When you're out there, I know they're not good.
Okay, water's out of plastic bottle is not the best. Okay, I'd say the best one is to use is the stainless steel. You know.
But if you've run out of that one.
Oh look, at times I have a plastic bottle. Okay. Look, you've just got to use the best you can. It's sometimes it's just too hard, especially if you're traveling, and you just do the best you can. There are many times you cannot do everything exactly right, but just do the best you can. Yes? Yeah, it can be. I know that, yeah. You've got to watch that, but I generally don't use distilled water all the time. I have a reverse osmosis. I'm really happy with it. I do know for certain treatments you should have distilled water, and I do know that it's excellent for those treatments. The what water? Fizzy water, yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah. The fizzy water. Oh, the sparkling water. Yeah, look, I don't like it. Yeah, it has. I've just got so used to drinking pure good water. I love it, and that's what I concentrate on. I don't go to any of the others. But as I said, if you've only got the others, you've just got to use what you can. And these other times where it's very difficult for you to get the best and the optimum, just do what you can. You can use water, but water as a treatment is not just internally, it can be used externally. And we're going to spend one whole session on using it in hydrotherapy. Fermentations, compresses, hot packs, ice, steam, pain relief. So there are other things that you can do with your water as well. Now, we're going to just touch on here sunlight. I've got this book at home it's called Sunlight by Dr. Sehm, and I actually found it so informative. It's been out of print for many years, and I went online and searched it, and I bought a second-hand copy. And when it came, I thought to myself, oh, I'm so happy with this. I love it. It's the most informative and carefully detailed book on sunlight and health to ever be published. What does sunlight do to us? Do you know, some of you may have, I don't know if anybody heard this, but there's been an American doctor who has put out some talks on the internet, Dr. Roger Schult. Look, I've forgotten how to pronounce his Schwelt. His name is spelt Seheult. Absolutely fascinating information he's got. It's well worth going online and searching out that information, because he's talking to it from the 8 laws of health view, and his information is absolutely amazing. Roger, Seheult. And it's Schwelt. I think that's how you pronounce it. But he's talking about how there's this young boy, he was dying, and his lungs were he was full of fungal toxins, and they knew he would die. He's only had a few days to live. And in the hospital, they said to him, well, what would you like to do if you had only a few days to live? What would you like to do? And he said, get outside in the sunshine. So they, with great rigmarole, they wheeled his bed out with all his monitors and everything out there, and he's in the sunshine, and he actually stabilised a little bit more, and he went out the next day and he got even a bit better, and he actually got better, and he was only given 2 days to live. And he's still alive today. And he was only a young teenager. And his story that Dr. Roger talks about that on that clip. Most amazing, because he's got the scientific research of what they're doing with sunshine. A lot of this was documented. This book that I was just telling you about, that is probably a little bit older because the doctor who authored it has died, but the research he's got in there just absolutely amazing. So it increases oxygen content of the blood, decreases our resting heartbeat, sets and regulates and maintains our internal body clock. Look, it decreases certain types of cancer. Sunlight is helpful in treating many diseases, for instance, TB, infection, bronchial asthma. It lowers blood pressure, has a cholesterol lowering effect, lowers blood sugar, acts like insulin and lets glucose into the cell. It speeds up the body circulation. Do you know what they actually, in this book it talked about, they had two groups of people, and they said that actually it was just one group of people in this one. They put this one group of people out there, they tested their cholesterol level, and they put them out in sunlight. 2 hours later, they tested their cholesterol level, and their cholesterol level decreased by 13%, only just by sunlight. God has given us such a beautiful, and we're told, what are we told to do? Get out of the sunlight. We need sunlight. Obviously, I'm not talking about in the middle of the day. You've got to be sensible about this. But it is so helpful for you. It stimulates immune system. It promotes wound healing and kills many bacteria after short exposure. It penetrates deep in the tissues for healing. And this is interesting because they found out that if you get out in the sun, and it even penetrates through your clothes, but if you have and you expose yourself, and as much as you want to, as inappropriate as you want to, you can get down to nothing, and you can lay out there and you can sunbake, and you can get that sunlight will penetrate that far into your body. You roll over and you do the other side, it will penetrate that. They said it penetrates deep inside your body. Can you believe that? God knows that. Chemicals and toxins are eliminated 10 to 1,000 times faster than artificial light. You know, another thing they did, they took, in that book it talks about, they had some little rabbits, and they had two groups of rabbits. One of these groups of, all of the groups of rabbits, they took out half of their blood volume. In this one group, they left them inside. In the other group, they put them all out in the sun. All of those who were put out in the sun lived. All of those who stayed inside died. Incredible, isn't it? There is so much healing in the sun. It stimulates our pineal gland. Now, how does it get into your pineal gland? Well, apparently it goes through your iris of our eye, and it goes right in and it stimulates the pineal, at the back of our eyeball, the retina stimulates our pineal gland. But it doesn't do it if you wear dark glasses. I've got one of my books at home. It talks about this doctor who said, we're in for a huge epidemic of problems because so many people are wearing dark glasses. And you know what? When I remember when I was a young woman, I was in my 20s, and I used to wear dark glasses everywhere because this was, not only was fashionable, but I couldn't handle it. I couldn't get out. Every time I'd go in the sun, I'd just squint up, and my eyes were so sensitive. And then I can remember learning all about this, and I was told, no, your body, you've got nutrient deficiency that's what's happening. You need a lot of B vitamins in your body to get your eyesight back. So I worked on the nutrition, and guess what? I don't use dark glasses. I don't even own a pair of dark glasses now. I guess that if I needed to, I'd probably be able to borrow some from somewhere, but I don't own dark glasses, okay? So you need to be aware of that, and not only that, it also prescription glasses too. It doesn't go through as readily through prescription glasses too. You have to, and we used to be up there, and in the morning, in the early morning, if you come up and you can see that there's probably about a couple of minutes after the sun comes up on the horizon, if you can look into that sunlight as it comes up, direct into the sun, without your glasses on, straight into that does a lot of healing in your eyes. Now, but it's only like a window of maybe less than about 5 minutes when it comes up over the horizon. I'm not telling you about looking directly into the sun as it is overhead. It's just on the horizon. So we need to be careful. Okay, exposing ourselves 20 to 30 minutes of the sun a day, but we need to be ready. Don't get sunburnt. So it's so easy to have and get ourselves sunburnt. But what do they keep saying to us? Slip, slop, slap. So, what do? They say, put some sunscreen on. Do you know, I don't think I've got sunscreen in the house. So if I had to go out into the sunlight and if I was exposed to the sunlight, I would just put on a hat. I would cover myself up properly, I'd put long sleeve on. And that's the way. But it's good to get a little bit of when I say a little bit of suntan. It's not wrong to have a bit of a suntan, so you can actually get a little bit of so you've got something that your body is used to getting the sun. Because if you don't get out in the sun, I've got a very fair skin and I just shrivel up. But when it comes in the spring, I usually get out into the sun a little bit and I try to get a little bit of suntan on my body. I'm not talking about shriveling up and getting as brown as a berry. We're not talking about that. But getting a reasonable exposure so your body is able to handle a little bit of sun. So I like working in my garden and getting a bit of sun that way. So any questions? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have another short break now and we'll go into, we'll come back and we'll talk about temperance as we come back. Okay, so we'll just have a bit of a break.